Hi, I'm John Moran, and this is 707. My guest is Rebel Fagan. Difficult to classify him. He is a political activist in keeping with the tradition of Northern California, and also a writer, which doesn't constrict him to books or blogs. He also has written songs, poetry. Anything else?
I'm a regular contributor to the Peace Press and to Global Critical Media Literacy Project, which is an offshoot of Project Censored.
Okay. But you were also a high school teacher.
Yes.
How long ago was that?
I retired in 2014. And so my last job was at Healdsburg High for about 19 years. And it had a lot of really positive things to it.
What did you teach?
I taught mostly at-risk students.
Ah,
I'm a
sorry.
recycler, and I recycle people. My focus was on history, government and economics, and English.
I like the first answer best.
Well, the English, because of the students I was serving, we spent more time on this is a verb, this is a noun, and less on interpreting Keats or something.
Right. But you enjoyed it?
Yeah.
What was it about teaching you liked?
I think I was born to teach, to tell you the truth. Teachers don't retire, they just quit going to work. I enjoyed reaching out to people who are receptive and open and catching that aha moment when somebody goes, dude, I get it! Yeah. And I enjoy teenagers because they're full of energy, they're open for new ideas, they're willing to try things. So I enjoy working with 14 to 18-year-olds.
Okay. Do you enjoy being challenged?
Whether I enjoy it or not, there it is. But yeah, I do. I'm not one of those teachers who it's my way or the highway. It's a collaboration. If you entered my class, I would say there's only one class rule, and that's mutual respect. Now follow. I need to respect you. That's where it starts. You need to respect the material, and tertiary in that dynamic, you need to respect me. My respect for you and our mutual respect for the subject matter is much more important.
How did you get on with the school authorities?
It was challenging at times.
In what way, Rebel?
I ended up supporting students who people basically wanted to throw away. So I would have to defend them, find legal grounds for why they know you really can't throw them out. And also I had a school club called the Progressive Club. We did door-to-door recycling once a week. They really liked that. We did counter-recruitment tabling when the Marines and the Army showed up on campus and tried to seduce students into going to die for the oil profits. They didn't much care for that. So it was a balancing act, constant balancing act. They liked the garden that we put in to take food to the food pantry. Mm-hmm. They liked that we hooked up school to garden with garden to pantry. They did not care much for some of the speakers we brought to campus, such as Dar Jamel, Cindy Sheehan, Jeff Patterson, Project Censored, or Norman Solomon. They tolerated it, but that didn't make them really happy. In fact, at one point, I had an administrator say, you know, you're just too nice. I said, yeah, that's probably true, and I doubt if it's going to change.
When did you leave there?
2014.
Okay. So 3 years. But when you were a lad, Rebel, when you were a little shaver, what did you think you wanted to be?
I was the student that teachers shuddered if they
Before
had me in
students.
their class. No, when I was a student.
Oh, what I mean is before you became a student, before you went to high school, we all have little silly ambitions. We say, I want to be an airline pilot.
Yeah, I'm sure I wanted to be a cowboy and all that stuff. But it was the same conflict I ended up with, because there was part of me that wanted to be a teacher and part of me that just saw teachers as another adult authority that needed to be defied.
Did you want to change that?
I didn't realize I could until I got older.
Okay, well, when did you realize that, hey, I'm grown up, I can do this?
I'd been working in nightclub for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, the Cotati Cabaret,
yeah.
as all sorts of things. Believe it or not, as a bouncer, which when you're my size involves talking to people.
A persuader.
Oh yeah, but it works because people can be talked to. People
Right.
don't want to be jerks.
And the Cotati Cabaret, for anybody who doesn't know, is now legendary and was then a club.
It's a huge dance floor. We could have all sorts of people in there. It's now a temple, which is good. It needs a spiritual revamp. But I did that. I did light tech. I was a bartender. I was a dishwasher. I wrote articles for the papers. Sometimes I had to use 2 or 3 names so it wouldn't all look like me. Gosh, what else did I do? Put up posters, booked bands.
What was your favorite band that ever played there?
Hometown band or international?
Doesn't matter. Anything you like.
There's
Doesn't
a
have
couple.
to be a band.
There's a couple of them.
Go on,
There was a group called Sweet Honey in the Rock. And when they came on stage, they said, "We are 5 African American women because we choose to be African American women."
And were they?
I danced. That was an a cappella group, and I danced all night to Just Voice. They were
Okay.
beautiful, and they had a lot to say. Donovan, who you may recall from the 60s,
Yeah,
played there.
dude.
Wonderful sets. It'd be a third the hits, a third new stuff, and a third that little gem that you don't hear enough of. And he was very gentleman, very receiving to people. Sometimes the better bands, the show was such a challenge that, this is why teaching was easy,
Right,
that
go on.
I didn't really hear the performers as well.
Right,
For example, the first time Los Lobos played, Corona beers were new in America,
right.
and we were being promoted by radio station 101, so we were selling Coronas for $1 and a penny. I don't remember anything of that show except about 10 minutes of 2 going on stage and saying, "You guys got to quit. Our liquor license is in jeopardy."
Do you ever see Van Morrison? I believe he
Oh,
played.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. He played the Inn more than he played the Cab. He would use that as a way to warm up his band for tours.
Right.
Greg Allman did the same thing next door at the Trade Winds and later became
Yeah.
Spanky's.
Those were good times, weren't they?
Oh,
Not that I remember them.
Cotati in 1979, if you looked at an average book, you would see a country rock band, a blues band, a folk act, a jazz band, some sort of ethnic music, maybe Peruvian or something. And I could stand traffic providing, of course, in Old Redwood Highway, and if I leaned this way, I picked up the Inn, and if I leaned that way, I picked up the Cab, and if I
Right.
leaned that way, I got the Trade Winds, or the Meander Inn, or Redwood Cafe. I once booked a 12-hour dance marathon walking 1 block through Cotati, and I had the bands.
Good days.
It was the musical center of the world.
Well, I don't know about that, but it was
All right.
the highlight of Sonoma County.
Guitar player interview with Elvis Costello. That was his first question. How do I get to Cotati from here?
Okay, we're going to take a break.
Oh, righty.
And we'll be back in just a few seconds. Do not switch. Welcome back. My guest is Rebel Fagin. That's a great name.
I was born with it.
Were you?
Yeah.
That was a given name?
My given
Rebel?
name is Rebel. Yes.
Then your parents must have been somewhat...
It was, it doesn't actually fit real well. My dad named me instead of my mother. She wanted to name me Kevi.
Kevin?
Kevi.
Kevi.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I heard about that and said, I'm not coming out. It's warm and wet here. I don't need a job. I'm staying put. So they also wanted to name me Valentino. 'Cause I was
After
supposed-
Rudolph.
After Valentine's Day.
Oh,
So I waited, and I came out on George Washington's birthday.
so they called you Wash House.
Oh, no, my father said, and this is historically embarrassing, he said that George Washington was the first American to rebel against Britain, which is not at all true.
Right.
And so we'll call him Rebel, which they thought would get me in less trouble than Sean. They thought Sean Patrick Fagin was just a little bit
A little
ethnic.
too much.
Yeah. So that's how I
Okay.
got Rebel.
And your mother was
just
delighted,
lost.
of course.
She just lost.
Okay.
But she did tell me if it ever bothered me, I could always be R. Patrick, which gave me an out that I thought about and chose to never use.
Well, you should do sometime.
You know what? I was glad she gave me that option, because then I had to think about it. And even at an early age, identity and name were fused.
Okay. Well, part of your identity now in Sonoma County, and I'm sure beyond, is your activism. And you are, say I'm wrong if I'm wrong, but you're an integral part of Occupy Sonoma County. Would that be wrong to say?
No, that would be good.
Occupy has had a funny history. It was a big movement, a news filling movement for a while, and then it suddenly went or appeared to go quiet.
Well, let me fill you in here,
Please.
because a lot of people don't have this gap. Occupy starts in 2011, and they begin by, as people know, occupying public spaces. Now, that's not really tenable for a long term.
Their focus being
Economics.
right.
And by using street politics and not asking favors, but just taking the streets, they changed the conversation in Washington. The suits were talking about the national debt, like it was a big deal or something. Suddenly it shifted to economics. After Occupy got famous, there was a conference of mayors. And then there was a big crush on occupations. They seemed to delight in hitting college-aged white women a lot, though Scott Olson, an American vet, got hit with a beanbag from about twice the distance I am from you, which caused brain damage to him. I mean, he's functional, but his speech is certainly delayed. A year later, in 2012,
Rebel. So that all that happened. There was the ejections from parks. There was the protests. And almost like in the I think it was either the 50s or during the Depression, when those who formed the camp in a major park were invaded by the police and the authorities. And
you're talking about the veterans getting their pay early in Washington, D.C. Yes, they were run out by Lieutenant MacArthur and his adjutant Eisenhower.
Right. So the same,
similar
albeit
dynamic. Similar dynamic.
Yeah. And then we tended, as perhaps we all do after some upheaval, we tend to want to get back to a sort of calmer situation. And Occupy didn't become as dominant as it was.
Well, what happened is, as a lot of occupiers left the park, they focused on regional direct action campaigns. So Occupy Sacramento became Occupy Sacramento was the one that worked on getting water out of the hands of a soda factory who was getting water at domestic rates while they were under drought conditions.
Right.
Occupy Our Homes in Santa Rosa was looking at people retaining their homes because sometimes the banks that were taking the homes didn't really have the papers.
So the problem was originally with Occupy was that it was centralized in a certain area and had a watered down effect outside that specific area. And so they decided, if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. They decided then, okay, we need branches. We need to spread and give the inhabitants of a certain area some authority to decide what action they would take up.
No, you're right, except for it wasn't an organized top-down thing. It was, this is not right, we need to do something about it, let's take action.
So it was a communal decision.
Occupy Our Farms, for example, looks at GMOs that UC Berkeley was growing and set up a garden, an organic garden, to try to get those out.
All right. I want to get onto that subject in the next section. But so you became very prominent then.
Well, I'm going to consider myself very prominent, but no more so
Everybody
than others.
knows you. You're the face of.
Oh dear.
You're the face of rebellion, my friend.
Okay.
But how strong is Occupy Sonoma County now?
We're very busy. We do a lot of things. We just did a very successful teach-in on gender awareness with the people from Positive Image. And we used the Peace and Justice Center. There was a good 50 people there because we used all the chairs and then some. We've been doing a lot of marches against Monsanto, 5 or 6 of them, trainings on how to facilitate meetings and other skills.
One of your, is it specific to you or is it an Occupy? This is the Palestinian-Israeli problem.
Occupy is going to be doing a Palestinian teach-in on January 30th, which is both Gandhi's death day and my granddaughter's birthday.
Oh.
I'll remember that one.
Congratulations, Rebel's granddaughter.
And the focus is on Palestine and on the BDS movement as a teach-in, as a way of instructing people.
Okay.
The Israeli propaganda machine is the finest in the world, and they're real good at disinformation. For example, whenever Israel wants to steal land, they start talking about rockets from Gaza. There may or may not have been rockets from Gaza. They may or may not have hit anywhere, but they use that as cover as they illegally steal land. They're very good at propaganda. To speak out against Israel in this country is supposed to brand you as an anti-Semite, which is problematic when you're talking about groups like Jewish Voices for Peace, you know, and they do very good propaganda. What gets me there is justice. Picture, if you will, an adult in a tank wearing Kevlar with a machine gun, and standing in front of that tank is an 8-year-old boy with a rock in his hand. Whose side are you on? It's that cut and dry.
Let's get back to this in a second. We'll
Sure.
take a quick break. We're talking to Rebel Fagan, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm John Moran, and I'm talking to Rebel Fagan, and the show is 707. We left off talking about the Palestine and Israeli conflict problem. Will it ever stop? What needs to happen?
Well, it depends how
That's a big question.
It depends how you want to stop it. One way to stop the conflict is for Israel to drive out or destroy every living, breathing Palestinian and take over the land for themselves. That is one way it could end. Another way would be to seek peace through justice. And to do that, Israel should follow the dictates of the law. There is a movement called Boycott, Divest, Sanctions, which calls for economic pressure against companies making profit in Israel until Israel changes their policies. So it's not directed at Israel, it's directed at Israeli policies. And to get them to follow the law, to allow. When you have a theocratic state, you have to have an apartheid state because you've got an us and a them. And you give extra rights to us. So that would have to end, among other things.
Right, go on.
Overseas, Palestinians do not have the right to return guaranteed by UN Resolution 181. That would have to end. They'd have to have a right to go home. And Israel should withdraw to the legal boundaries established in 1967. That gave 2/3 of the land to 1/3 of the people, the Israelis, and 1/3 of the land to 2/3 of the people, the Palestinians. See, within Israel proper, 20% of the people are not Jewish, so they lack Israeli nationality while still having Israeli citizenship. This is the dividing line with rights. In 2005, civilian society within Palestine asked to use a boycott, a nonviolent means of enacting social change. They wanted, I'm going to follow their lead because it's their country.
It's an ongoing conundrum, it seems to me, that seems unsolvable.
Well, so did South Africa. Go back 20 years. Could you have imagined Nelson Mandela not dying in jail?
Are you asking me? Or?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
Okay. South Africa and it changing, I think by comparison, it was an easy decision. The Palestine-Israeli conflict seems and has challenged people, say from 1946,
Yeah.
and it's still nowhere near any resolution. And, or is it?
It's yes and no. Yes and no. You're right. And on the other hand, outside of the United States, the boycott, divest, sanction movement is having a big impact. Let's see, Veolia, the people who run our county buses, they have withdrawn from running the segregated roads that run through the illegally occupied West Bank. G4S, the security people, are talking about going out.
Let me throw something at you. This isn't just a one-sided
No,
affair.
no.
So both parties, it seems, are unwilling. Perhaps I'm not saying anyone is wrong or right. I'm just saying that there seems to be no way that any outside party, country, body is going to be able to do anything about this until they do it themselves.
Well, there is a lot of that going on. There are peace groups, but you don't hear about them in the United States. Peace Now, for example, helps rebuild homes. That's primarily Israeli citizens working to help rebuild Palestinian homes. You could actually learn more if you come to Occupy's teach-in on January 30th, where we'll be discussing this and bringing.
Where will that be?
That'll be at the Peace and Justice Center. Thank you.
Where is it?
647 Sebastopol Avenue, not Sebastopol Road, but over by Juilliard Park.
That's South A area?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And you could learn a lot more there. This could go on for quite some time.
As it already has.
And so that's what's going on. We're trying to encourage right now people to boycott Hewlett-Packard because of their participation in the biometric identification systems and the checkpoints.
There seems to be a lot to learn from the situation.
Yeah.
Okay. Not only that, the big thing for me, which I wanted to ask, and we're going to have to get you back, but very briefly, the GMO situation, which Occupy seemed to be preoccupied.
Very well done.
Give me, if you can, in the time that we have left, why it's wrong and what the argument is for it.
Genetically modified organisms is a way of altering food rather abruptly with what's called a gene gun, where they shoot in the desired bacterias, because bacterias are really good at entering bodies, to create the substance. The claim is that they will use it to feed the world, but 80% of it's used to put in glyphosate, which is a probable cancerogen that's common in Roundup. And
I have no idea what you're talking about.
okay, it's a chemical. It's a chemical that causes cancer. That probably causes cancer.
All right.
And it's used to increase the profits of the Monsanto Corporation because they sell the Roundup Ready seeds. So when you plant those seeds and use the poison, it kills everything that isn't Roundup Ready.
Okay.
That's where 80% of the GMOs go. They do not go to feed people. And many countries will not, Japan, Europe, and parts of West Africa and elsewhere will not buy crops that have these in there because we don't know the effects. We're waiting for the test results. The test results are being observed on the American public. What's going to happen? Let's see.
How long do you have to wait?
I don't know, because we don't know what the effects are. It might be, generational. It might be that our grandchildren's children are the ones who have the effect. We don't know. It's not safe to put on the market.
How do we know that it's so harmful?
Tests. There's a lot of tests that are out there. I don't have that data with me right now. Also, you can look at UN studies and the UN found it a probable cancerogen with I want to say Health and Human Services, but that's a U.S. The World Health Organization. That's it. You'd have to go to their site to look at the studies. We don't really know, and we don't want it tested on us or our children. And some of the aspects of it have proven to be probable cancerogens. Now, the claim for it is that they will use it to feed the world. That hasn't happened. It hasn't been used in that sense. So
they misrepresented it.
And there have been times, well, there was a farmer named Percy Schmeiser up in the Dakotas, and some of his canola got contaminated with genetically modified canola. And Monsanto came and claimed his crop and all of his seeds that he and his wife had been saving for generations, because he'd apparently stolen from them. Well, look, if my pig gets out and gets into your property and chews up your roses, I got to get the pig, apologize, fix the fence, and buy you some new roses. It doesn't work that way with GMOs. So it's an unfair fight.
Okay, you're going to have to come back.
I'd be glad to.
Anytime?
Sure. Well, just give me enough time so I can shuffle my schedule.
All right.
But
okay.
I'd be glad to.
Yeah, because, all of the subjects that
There's a lot of stuff in the world. We can deal with it all. We're quite capable of it. We can be smart, caring people. It's possible.
We just have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
I just don't want to forget, Rebel has a book, Tales from the Perpetual Oppositional Culture, and the subtext title is A Journey into Resistance. That says it all. Thanks again, Rebel.
Thank you very much.
And we will have you back.
Great.
That's all from 707. We'll see you another time.